Hey, thanks for joining me for another edition of A New Day in the Word. Let me share with you a little bit about what we discussed on Sunday morning at New Day Fellowship. Have you ever faced a situation or a challenge in life where you felt totally inadequate to be able to handle it? Well, I think we all have at one time or another, or maybe we're facing those kinds of situations right now. And someone that we find in scripture that found himself in that type of a situation was Moses. God came to Moses and he told Moses that he wanted to lead or wanted him to lead the people of Israel out of captivity in Egypt. And what that would entail would be Moses leading thousands, if not a couple of million people out of the hands of Pharaoh, who was the most powerful leader in the world at that time. And he would not only need to lead them out of the grip of Pharaoh, but he would need to lead them through the desert where there was very little food and water. There were other enemies of the people of Israel, all the way to the land that God had promised them in Canaan. So you can imagine what Moses must have felt like when God presented him with this task. And matter of fact, Moses felt so inadequate that he said to God, "Who am I to do this?" So let me show you what Exodus chapter 3, verses 11 and 12 say, and how Moses responded to God and what God said back to Moses. Exodus 3, verses 11 and 12. But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God said, "I will be with you." Moses said, "Who am I to do this?" But God encouraged him and said, "I will be with you." See, Moses couldn't do it on his own. There's no way he had the ability as one man to set a whole nation free from slavery, but he could do it with God's help. And so, what I want to look at today, very briefly, and of course, as always, we went into much more detail on Sunday morning, had a great discussion, uplifting worship, new visitors. It was just a great service. But what we really broke down and looked at in detail is how God was with Moses. And I want to share those four things with you so that you can be assured of when you face difficult challenges of life and you feel inadequate to be able to meet those challenges, that I want to assure you that God will be with you also. And so here's the first thing. And the way that God was with Moses is that he was with Moses through power. God enabled Moses to do the miraculous. God did miraculous things for the people of Israel. I mean, think about it from the very beginning when God first challenged Moses with this task. He appeared to him in the burning bush. Then we see God poured out plagues upon Pharaoh and the nation of Egypt as they began to journey into the wilderness. They were caught between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea, and God parted the Red Sea so that Israel could escape. And then the sea came back in upon Pharaoh and his armies and destroyed his armies. And as they again continued the journey through the wilderness, God provided for them water from the rock. He provided bread from heaven in the form of manna. He provided quail for them. God appeared to Moses at the tabernacle, and all of these great and miraculous things God did for Moses to enable him to be able to do what God had called upon him to do. And God will do the same for you. God will give you the power that you need, even the miraculous, so that you can face the challenges, the obstacles, the enemies that you may face in life. Secondly, God provided a helper. Something very practical and basic, but was very much needed. If you remember when God first called Moses to go and set the people free, Moses started coming up with all these kind of excuses of why he couldn't do it. And one of those was that he wasn't an eloquent speaker. And he's like, God, how am I going to go and speak to Pharaoh and to the people and all these things when I can't really speak very well? So God gave him Aaron in order to help him speak and communicate in the midst of this great challenge that God had given him. And we see that happening in various other ways throughout the wilderness wanderings. Moses was able to delegate some of his tasks to other leaders when they were facing the Amalekites. God told Moses, he said, look, as long as you keep your hands raised, Israel will defeat the Amalekites. But if you drop your arms, the tide will turn. And so Moses began to get tired, and those people came alongside him and lifted up his arms and kept his arms up so that Israel could have the victory. And we see God providing for Moses the people that he needed to meet the challenge of the day. And so I want to encourage you to lean on other people. Lean on family, lean on friends, lean on the family of God. God did not create us to go through this life and its challenges alone. So lean on other people in times of need, and you also be there for other people to lean on in their times of need. And when we're there to support one another, we can face any challenge that this life has to offer. Number three, the way that God showed Moses that he was with him is because God led them through the wilderness. If you remember, God led the people during the day in the pillar of cloud, and he led them at night by the pillar of fire. God did not come to Moses and say, look, Moses, I want you to leave these thousands and thousands of people out of captivity in Egypt, and I want you to make your way to the land of Canaan, the promised land that I want to give to you, and then just say, hey, I'll see you on the other side. You're kind of on your own now. God didn't do that. God said, look, I will be with you, and I'm going to lead you. And God did lead them all the way to Canaan, always being there for Moses when the need arose. And God will be there for you too to lead you. God doesn't um, present challenges in your life or obstacles in your life just to say you're on your own now. You try to find the right way. God's there to lead us, to guide us, to give us the wisdom that we need in every situation. But what it requires of us is to look for God and then to follow him. Be willing to follow him even when the circumstance seems insurmountable. We still have to trust him and follow whatever direction that he gives us. And then number four, God showed Moses that he would be with him by giving Moses divine encounters to encourage him. Throughout the challenge of leading the people out of Egypt, God allowed Moses to have these powerful encounters with him. As I said before, the burning bush, God spoke to him from the bush that was not consumed, even though it was on fire. The pillar of cloud coming down on the tabernacle, and Moses was able to converse and talk with God. Mount Sinai, where God's presence descended in the cloud and the earthquake and the fire. And it says that Moses was able to talk with God face to face. In other words, like one friend talks to another. And at one point, God even passed right in front of Moses. Now, Moses couldn't see God in his full glory and be able to live. But as you remember, God put Moses in the cleft of a rock and passed by him, and Moses could see him from behind. And so, God gave Moses the encouragement of these divine encounters with him. And guys, so as you're going through your difficulties and challenges, ask God for divine encounters. Say, Lord, I need the encouragement. I need you to reassure me that you are there. Lord, let me see you in the midst of these circumstances. Lord, Lord, I want to be with you. I want to fellowship with you. I want to hear your voice. I want to see you face to face as Moses did. And when you think about it, why wouldn't God want to have encounters with you? You're his child. As much as you long to encounter God, he longs to fellowship with you. And so as you go through your difficult journey, say, God, I just need time with you. I need to encounter you and be reassured in this challenge that I'm facing. I thought Chris Tygreen said something very interesting, and he said this: the good news is that God gives us the same promise he gave Moses. I will be with you. God will be with you. Hey, thanks for joining me for this brief session of A New Day in the Word. And of course, if you want more details on subjects like this, to be involved in great interactive study and discussions with other believers, join us at New Day Fellowship every Sunday morning at 10:30 at 115 North Fayette Street in Shippensburg at Branch Creek Place. Some people know it as the Senior Center, as we temporarily meet there till we can find our own facility, and we would just love to get to know you. You will be among family. All right, I look forward to seeing you there.